Emma. It is almost the end of December and I need to wrap up my 2022 book haul revisit videos. So in the year of 2022, it was the first year that I started my RAB spreadsheet, and so I did monthly book hauls. I don't really do book hauls. I don't really like book hauls that much. I don't really think they're necessarily good for us as booktubers in some respects. But I wanted to make sure that I had a record of every book that came in, not only on my RAB spreadsheet, which is my recently acquired books spreadsheet, where I write down all the books that come into the house, where they end up, if I read them. Some books do get put down in the basement, as well as that recently acquired books spreadsheet. I also wanted to make sure I had book hauls to go with it. Now, in 2024, I'm looking back at all the book hauls that I did and seeing if I've read those books, if I've unhauled them, if I've DNF'd them, if they went on collections. Mostly this is to see, like, do I read the books that I bring in? Like, do I read the books that are on that recently acquired books spreadsheet? We're gonna group the last two book hauls. One is very, very small, and that one was November with December's book haul revisit as well. So we're gonna do those both in this video, and we're gonna wrap up the series of revisiting my 2022 book hauls. As I'm making these videos, I'm also making a priority read list. If I have not read a book, but I think I really should get to it, it's going on that list. I've already used that list to make part of my end of year TBR, so you can see a video all about that. As you're watching this, let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned here, and let me know if you think I should prioritize any of the ones that I haven't read yet. We'll start with this small book haul that was in November of 2022. It's only a little under 8 minutes long. Well, that's very exciting. So the first book in this book haul is The Paddington Mystery by John Bood. I actually read this earlier this year, just a few months ago. I thought it was okay. I didn't love it, but it is a book that I've read. It's a golden age mystery. It's a locked room mystery, and I definitely want to read more John Bood. The next book is also read. It is Women Hollering Creek by Sandra Cisneros. This is a collection of short stories. I have read two Sandra Cisneroses, including this one, and while I like her writing, she is not like my favorite storyteller, if that makes sense. I'm really interested to read some of her poetry. The next book is unread. It is Diary of an Oxygen Thief, and it is by Anonymous. I feel like most people hate this book. I've never seen a good review of it. Haven't read it, but it is still on my TBR. The next book is read. It is Ace by Angela Chen. This is a nonfiction all about asexuality, and this is a great starting point. I read this book last year and I really enjoyed it, and I think this is a good book if you're interested in expanding your queer nonfiction reading. The next book is unread, and I think this one might be down in the basement, but I'm just going to mark it as unread. It is Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, which is a collection of essays. I got this, I think, at a Goodwill or something, and I'm just always interested, especially in vintage essay collections about the civil rights movement and things like that. So this one is not high on the priority, but it still is on my TBR, and it is unread. The next book is unread. It is D, A Tale of Two Worlds by Michael Faber. I'm interested in reading this one, even though it is a middle grade, because I think it's about a world where the letter D disappears, so slowly things are disappearing, and I feel like that is kind of a theme that I'm interested in. I have not read this one, but it is still on my young adult TBR. Next we have The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur. I have read this poetry collection by Rupi Kaur. I think I've read every poetry collection that Rupi Kaur has put out. These are pretty easy to find in little free libraries. I like her work. I don't think it's really for me, but I think, again, it's a good place to start if you're new to reading poetry. The next book is unread. It is a collection of short stories by Virginia Woolf. I think it's called Monday or Tuesday or 8 Stories. I have never read any Virginia Woolf, so I thought short stories might be a good place to start, but I have not read it yet. So that's 4 read and 4 unread so far, so we're neck and neck. The next book is Pen Pal by Dennis Auerbach, and this is actually an unhaul. So this is a horror book, and I've heard good things about this from horror lovers, but I'm pretty sure there's a scary cat part, so I decided to unhaul this, and I haven't really thought about it since, so it's not a bad decision. The Cutting Season by Attica Locke is the first Attica Locke I've ever read, so it is read, and it is still on my read shelf. I haven't read anything else by them yet, but I am interested in reading more Attica Locke at some point. This was an interesting mystery thriller. Wow, okay, the next book is also read. It is The 39 Steps by John Buchan. I really enjoyed this World War I mystery. It is a classic Golden Age mystery, and I really enjoyed it. It was very suspenseful, very funny, very interesting. It was a mystery, certainly, but it was almost like an adventure story, which I really enjoyed. Next is The Day of Their Return by Poul Anderson. This one is down in the basement. I've never read any Poul Anderson, but I always pick them up for my husband who likes them. There are some Poul Andersons on our read shelf, but this one I think he's not going to get to anytime soon. I'm not going to get to anytime soon, so it has gone down into the basement. The next book is a similar story. It is the 1978 annual World's Best Sci-Fi, edited by Donald A. Woolham, and I like to pick up these sci-fi anthologies, especially if they have cool vintage covers, or especially if they are mass market paperbacks, but this one is down in the basement. It's not a priority on the reading list. Interesting. So that was the last book in November. Like I said, that was a very short book haul, and I say that I did get a couple more books in November, but I already read them, so I would have to refer back to my RAB spreadsheet to see which books those were, why I read them when I did, but as far as this book haul goes, I did talk about all of the books. So this is one of the few book hauls that I've read more books than anything else. I read 6 books. I still have 4 unread books on my TBR. I unhauled 1 book, and I put 2 books down in the basement. So to all total, that is 13 books. And let's move on to December. December is a longer video. It is 19 minutes long, almost 19 and a half minutes long. It is a 2-part video. So it is my last recently acquired books, and it's talking about my rules for the Read What You Own challenge. So I did participate in the Read What You Own challenge in the end of 2023. I am currently participating in another Read What You Own challenge for the end of 2024. So I'm going to skip the part where I talk about the rules for the Read What You Own challenge and just go right to the book haul. Is that lighting any better? Not really. A little bit, maybe a little bit. So the first book is unread. It is The Oxbow Incident by Walter Van Tilburg Clark. This is a Western that I've heard really good things about. I kind of picked it up for my husband because I think he had mentioned it or was interested in it or something, but it is on my TBR, so it is on my TBR and unread. I'm talking about the Wall Library sale, which is where I got a lot of these books, and I just went to the Wall Library sale recently, so you know, some things don't change. The next book that I picked up at the Wall Library sale is read. It is Below by Laurel Hightower. I enjoyed this short horror novella, and I would like to read more Laurel Hightower in the future. The next book is unread. It is The Island of Sea Women by Lisa C. I am really interested in this book about Korean pearl divers, and I've actually tried it a couple times. I think I did a try chapter with it and I kept it, and then I also tried to read it on audio, but it was a bad audio version because it was like before I had Libby and Hoopla, so it was like pirated on the internet and it wasn't good. So I'm still interested in this one, but so far it is unread. The next book is also unread. It is an NYRB edition. It's called Berlin Alexanderplatz by Alfred Doblin, and I pick up every NYRB edition that I see because I love NYRB and they kind of never steer me wrong. All the NYRB editions I've ever read have been kind of amazing. This is a really long one, so it is sort of in a collection because I have a collection of NYRB, but we're going to call it unread and on the TBR even though it's not a priority. The next book is read. I just read this one this year. It is The Circular Staircase by Mary Roberts Reinhardt, and this is the first book that she wrote. Wait, did I read it this year or last year? No, I read it last year. I love Mary Roberts Reinhardt. She is a queen of crime and she's a Golden Age mystery writer, but she was American, and I really love her like very wry and funny sense of humor in her writing. And I really enjoyed The Circular Staircase. It was her first published novel. I was very lucky to find On Chisel Beach when I did, because I had just heard Bob the Booker talking about it, and I did read it. I read it right away. So that's 3 read and 3 unread for December so far. Very exciting. The next book is unread. It is Paul Auster's Moon Palace. I love Paul Auster, and I've read a lot of Paul Auster, and I pick his books up whenever I see them. I'm not in a super rush to get to them generally, but I'm still glad to have Moon Palace on my TBR. The next book is In the Basement. It is Winter's Tales by Karen Blixen or Isak Dinesen, and actually we saw another version of this earlier in one of these videos, so I love Isak Dinesen. I read Out of Africa, and I've read some of her other work. Winter's Tale is a collection of short stories, but now I have 2 versions of it, but I think they're both in the basement, so we're gonna call this a basement book. Oh, I do mention that I have that book already. The next book is read. It is The Secrets of Nim by Robert C. O'Brien. I did read this. I read this in 2023. Earlier I said that I read Chisel Beach at the end of 2023, but I read it at the beginning of 2023 because I filmed this video at the end of 2022. The next book is read. It is 1,000 Mornings by Mary Oliver. This was the first collection of Mary Oliver's work that I read, and since then I've read another collection of hers, and I've picked up quite a few other ones, so I am excited to read more Mary Oliver. The next book is also a work of poetry, and I have read it. It is Chosen by the Lion by Linda Gregg. This was actually the first book that I finished in 2023, and it kind of kicked off like a really exceptional year of poetry in 2023, and I've kind of continued that in 2024 as well. And my first book of the year in 2024 was also a work of poetry, so we might be seeing a trend or a tradition started with reading poetry in the beginning of the year. I have read Chosen from the Lion, so now we're at 6 read books to 4 unread books. The next book is unread, which is Fruit of the Lemon by Andrea Levy. I have always really wanted to read Small Island by Andrea Levy, but I haven't found it yet. So when I found Fruit of the Lemon, I was like, oh, this is cool. I would also like to read this one, but I have not read it yet. The next book is unread. It is The Warriors Don't Cry, which is a nonfiction. It is by Melba Patillo-Beals, and it's all about integrating a school in Little Rock, and I think they were called like the Little Rock 6 or something, and it was the first brave and amazing young Black children who went to an integrated school despite bullying and abuse and death threats and all sorts of things. So this is one that I definitely am still interested in. It's definitely on my nonfiction TBR, but it's a heavy read, so I don't know when I'll get to it. The next book is unread, but I think I've moved it to my reference shelf. We're going to put it on reference. It is Cosmos by Carl Sagan. So I don't know if this is a book that I would read like cover to cover, like a regular book. It's one that I will probably, look at from time to time, check in on. Ooh, next we talk about a couple of cat cozy mysteries. Unfortunately, the first one is unread. That is Murder Past Due by Miranda James. I'm really interested in this cat cozy mystery series, and I really need to get back to my cat cozy mystery vlog series where I read cat cozy mysteries and vlog them for you. Let me know if you know of any cat cozy mysteries that you think I should read, or if any of the ones that I've talked about throughout this series you think I should prioritize. But maybe I'll put this on my priority read list. Next we have How to Wash a Cat by Rebecca M. Hale. That one is unread, another cat cozy mystery. Another classic sci-fi, but one that I haven't read, one that's in the basement, is A.E. Van Voigt's The House That Stood Still. I mostly got this because the cover is amazing. It's an amazing mass market paperback, but I don't think I will get to it anytime soon. The next book is a copy of Robert Louis Stevenson's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This is technically read because I have read this story before when I was younger, but we're going to call it unread and on the TBR because I want to read this and Mary Riley, which we talked about in an earlier one of these revisits, together, because Mary Riley is like a reimagining or retelling of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I do know, though, that this copy that I have in the video is not the one that I kept. I found another copy later, maybe in 2023, that I liked more, so I got rid of this one one and I still have the other one. The next book is unread. Oh, we've tipped the scales and we have a lot more unread now, but it is Good Morning Midnight by Jean Reese. I've only read one Jean Reese, but I always pick up her work because I really enjoyed Wide Circus of Sea. I will continue to pick up her work, but hopefully I'll also read some of it in the not too distant future. The next book is The Legacy of Lost Things by Ada Zieline. This is unread. I don't know anything about this book. I picked it up at a library sale. It has a very pretty cover. Actually, it has a cover with a repeating pattern on it. So maybe this is one that I should read for Books and Lala's cover buzzword challenge or buzzword cover challenge or buzz cover challenge, because the January prompt for that reading challenge is to read a book with a pattern, a repeating pattern on the cover. Another nonfiction and another unread book is Henry and June, which is actually just excerpts of Anais Nin's journals. Henry and June was made into a movie, and again, it's just excerpts and different passages from Anais Nin's journal about her life with Henry and June. So I have seen that movie. I do remember really liking it, but I have not read this nonfiction. This one could also be a priority, especially because we didn't mention any priorities from November. The next book is an unhaul. This is Close Up by Amanda Quick, which was a early Hollywood historical fiction thriller about a serial killer. I actually read the first chapter of this in a try chapter and I did like it, but it just, I don't know. It was one that I felt like I could unhaul, and in some of my Read What You Own challenges, I needed unhauls, so I did go ahead and unhaul this one. This one was one that maybe if I found it on audio, I would consider reading it on audio. The next book is another nonfiction that is unread, and that is Just Kids by Patti Smith. I've never read any Patti Smith, so I figured Just Kids might be a good one to start with. Oh, all right. Finally, another read book, It Walks by Night, which is John Dickinson Carr's first in the Ben Collins series, Inspector Ben Collins series, and I have read this one and I really enjoyed it. It is a very classic locked room mystery, and John Dickinson Carr also wrote under the name Carter Dixon, but he was well known for being an American Golden Age mystery writer who was welcomed into the fold of British mystery writers. The next book, unfortunately, is unread. It is Mountain Wind Song, a novel of the Trail of Tears by Robert J. Conley. This is an Own Voices Trail of Tears novel. Still in my TBR. I still want to read it. The next book is read. It is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno Garcia. It is the only full-length Silvia Moreno Garcia books that I've read. I've also read a short story or two by her. I don't know if she's the author for me. I was so excited and hyped for The Daughter of Dr. Moreau because it is a Island of Dr. Moreau retelling, reimagining, and that is one of my all-time favorite books. But it was pretty dull. And this one is read, but I have unhauled it since reading it. The next book goes on collections because it is an Agatha Christie book, The Secret of Chimneys. I think that's in the Poirot series, so all Poirot books I do collect, all Vintage Christie I do collect, but since I'm reading Miss Marple and Tommy and Tuppence in order before I start on Poirot, I'm not going to read these, so it is on my collections. The next book is also collections, and that is Welcome to the Monkey House by Kurt Vonnegut. I love Kurt Vonnegut. I've read a lot of Kurt Vonnegut, but I haven't been reading him lately. Whenever I see his books, especially if they're vintage covers or interesting covers or mass market paperbacks, I do pick them up. That copy of Welcome to the Monkey House is really beat up and it is missing its cover. The next book is another Vintage Christie and another book that goes on collections, except I have read this one, so we're going to count it as read, and that is Murder at the Vicarage, which is the first Miss Marple book. And this is an amazing cover with like a gun pointed through a window at a man, a disembodied gun, no one holding the gun, but obviously the shot will make its mark. And those are all the books that I picked up in December of 2022. So this is the last of my 2022 book haul revisits. In this one, I read 9 books. I still have 14 books unread but on my TBR. 1 book got unhauled without reading. 2 books went into the basement. 2 books went on to collections. And 1 went on to my reference shelf. So that is 29 books in my last 2022 book haul. haul. So that is the end of my 2022 book haul revisit. I've definitely not read more than I have read. A lot of books have gone in the basement. A lot of books have gone in collections. Several books have been DNF'd. Several books have been unhauled without reading. But I've had a lot of thoughts on this revisit. I have gone on a little bit of a roller coaster of emotion looking through these book hauls. Let me know if you have any thoughts on these book haul revisits. Let me know if you have any ideas after seeing them. Let me know if you want me to do a reflections video where I talk about the priority reads. The priority reads that we got from these two book hauls were Murder Past Due, The Legacy of Lost Things, and Henry and June. So I have to add those to the list. But let me know if you want to see a video where I go over my priority reading list that I've created from this, my reflections on my thoughts on this project and this challenge, and book hauls in general. I love book haul revisits, so if you know of any channels that do book haul revisits, definitely leave them in the comments below. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!